Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmIOverreacting for you all. As per usual, I'll be going through the post, giving you my opinion at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Anon98264849. My husband told me I could be killed if I keep pushing back. Am I overreacting? I, 65 female, have been married to my husband, 65 male, for 11 years. From early on, there were signs of manipulation and gaslighting, arguments somehow always being my fault, constant control over family gatherings, and days of verbal, emotional, and once, physical abuse if I tried to point out reality. He mocked me once when I was crying behind a locked bathroom door. Years ago, I set a boundary. No more screaming. He got therapy, and things improved somewhat. But sarcasm, criticism, and controlling behavior never fully stopped. Still, I've stayed. Partly out of hope, partly out of codependency, I now recognize. Fast forward to now. The old dysfunction has been creeping back. He's made comments like, "I'll destroy you," before. But recently, after I calmly explained a harmless encounter with a neighbor, he said, almost casually, "If you keep pushing back, you could be killed." When I asked him about it, he brushed it off as, "That's just how men talk." Our priest agreed. His psychiatrist adjusted his meds in therapy, and he swears it'll never happen again. But my gut feels different. I'm shaken, my body feels on high alert, and even though I don't think I'm in immediate danger, I can't shake this feeling. A close friend told me I'm in danger and should leave right away. His psychiatrist told me to trust my intuition. So here I am, conflicted. Part of me wants to believe this was just another dysfunctional comment, but another part of me feels like something fundamental has shifted, and I'm not safe anymore. Am I overreacting, or is this the point where I need to finally walk away? If the person who manages his mental health is telling you to trust your intuition, you should trust your intuition, and get out of this situation. This environment is just fundamentally unhealthy. And no, that's not just how men talk. That's an excuse. That's him trying to cover up for his poor behavior. And the comments he has previously and currently making are unhinged. And you are right to trust your intuition and feel like you need to get out of there. It is not normal for your spouse to tell you that they can destroy you, that they will destroy you, or even mentioning the fact of if you keep pushing back, you could be killed. From what I can understand is the reason why OP hasn't already left and why they're posting this here, despite the answer being very obvious, is out of embarrassment and just double checking that they are in fact going to go the right direction before they cement their choice, and wanting to make sure the choice they intend to make is not an overreaction. This kind of mentality and this kind of behavior is the result of abuse. It's the result of this kind of manipulation and control, and what it can do to your psyche and mind after 11 years. To us, yeah, it's obvious that OP needs to get the hell out of there. But to someone who has been in this situation, who has had their mind and reality warped and twisted around them for this long, the obvious is no longer obvious. In fact, the obvious can feel foreign or unreasonable. So from what I can tell, OP is just making sure that their intuition and gut feeling is, in fact, correct, and that they're trying to ignore that little voice in the back of their head that's biting at them and nipping at them, that the abuser in their life is correct and they're just simply overreacting in this position. I'm happy that they decided to put that little voice in the back of their head to rest, and this post is evidence of that. Transportation OK 8370. First family dinner with my partner. My mom staged a humiliating prank. Am I overreacting for feeling ambushed? I, 45, have been dating my partner, 55, for 3 months. My mom, 67, has been urging me to bring him to our usual Sunday dinners at her place, which normally include my sister, her partner, and my 2 children, 19 and 13. This relationship means a lot to me. Over the summer, while my kids were with their dad, we spent a lot of quality time together. We both expressed deep feelings, and I haven't felt this way about anyone in a very long time. The last 10 years since my divorce have been full of games, disappointments, and even abuse. So, finding someone like him feels different. My only real concern has been that he's never dated someone with children. so I was especially nervous for him to meet mine. As soon as we sat down for dinner, my mom's phone rang. It was my aunt, uncle, and cousin, all calling to speak to my partner and play what they called the dating game. Even though they'd never met him, they started asking him a series of ridiculous, nonsensical questions. My mom was clearly in on the prank. Everyone at the table, including my children, was horrified by how cringeworthy it was. I felt hot and dizzy with embarrassment and told my mom to end the call. She just kept laughing. My partner, thankfully, handled it all with incredible grace, answering their questions calmly and even with humor. I managed to pull myself together and get through the rest of the meal. Honestly, I have never been so humiliated in my life. I wanted so much to make a good impression, and I never expected my mom and her siblings to stage such a childish charade. I can't even imagine going back to her Sunday dinners anytime soon. And I know her. She'll almost certainly brush it off, insisting it was just a joke, and acting like I had no reason to feel ambushed or embarrassed. Am I overreacting? Edit, thanks for the comments, supportive and not. I appreciate different perspectives. I wanted to add that this incident hit especially hard as my dad died of cancer 4 years ago. He would have never put up with this prank and kinda disliked this side of my mom's family. He would have liked my new partner. Told him some jokes, then tried to bond with him by taking him out to the garage and showing him his 1960s muscle car. My dad's absence at dinner tonight felt especially painful. I never understood why some families insist upon hazing new partners for like some sort of initiation ritual to see if they're good enough to be part of the family. It's just incredibly destructive and ridiculous. Comment from user MadWorld3232. You're not overreacting. I wonder if she wanted to embarrass him, leading him to rethink dating you. Does she want you to stay single and unhappy? Is she cruel to you on a regular basis? I'd worry about your kids as well. Is she going to embarrass them with her pranks too? She probably won't admit to doing anything wrong and will dismiss your feelings as overreacting. I'd avoid her as much as possible. She and the others don't deserve to spend time with you and your kids. Opie responds, my mom is tone deaf and most likely thought she'd, and my uncle and other aunt, have a laugh at my expense. The fact that the joke didn't land well is irrelevant to her and no accountability will be taken. Another silver lining is that my kids thought the whole thing was awful and protested as well during the incident. They are kind, saw my discomfort, and wished the prank to stop. Another comment thread which provides additional context I'm sure many of you are asking, Acceptable Apple 4220 comments, I might be missing something here, but that sounds like the type of silly verbal game that would break the ice and make an awkward situation relaxed. They were just silly questions? What did they ask? Were they too personal? As a 44-year-old male, cracking a few jokes when meeting a new relationship's family would be a fun relief and would lighten the mood, unless they were overly sexual questions or something. OP responds, thanks for your perspective. Wonderful Kid 0519 comments, info. Can you give some examples of the questions they asked? You were pretty vague about the content of the questions, and I think that's pretty pivotal information which would clarify your mother's intentions and the situation in general. Opie responds, my cousin asked for the Pythagorean formula for a right angle. My uncle asked what the best piece of advice anyone ever gave him. My partner's answer, don't talk to strangers on the phone. As mentioned, my partner was amazing, but that my family planned this on the phone for a first meeting, knowing how nervous I was, is the issue. So, with that added context there, I can definitely say that the questions are most certainly cringe, without a doubt. And I don't think that the first commenter's theory of this being some kind of master plan to embarrass him and get him to rethink dating OP was not their intention on this one. I think they were just trying to do silly icebreakers without realizing the fact that this made OP uncomfortable, and this was something that they were not okay with. It sounds like OP found a keeper with this one, though, who was willing to not only take the family's dating game in stride, but also counter it pretty nicely. But I'm also getting the vibe from the way that OP is talking about their mother that this isn't the first time they've pulled this kind of behavior, or used these kind of excuses of, oh, it's just a joke, or you're overreacting. Sounds like these are somewhat common occurrences from the way that OP talks about and describes things, and is able to nearly predict their mother's reaction. I think I personally find myself in the boat that while these questions themselves were not necessarily harmful or hurtful or inappropriate, they were still done to embarrass and to haze, whether or not they were targeted towards the boyfriend or OP as a way to kind of make them squirm a bit. No clue. But what we do know is that OP made their discomfort clear, and yet their mother persisted and continued. And that's the problem here. Now, of course, I'd be interested in some audience insight of how you feel on this one. Do you think OP's overreacting in this instance, and this was just a pretty simple dating/hazing game the family put on, or do you think that OP is valid in their emotions, that even though the questions might be surface level harmless, this was still done against OP's wishes, and clearly set up to embarrass either her or her new partner? Puzzled Demand 2347. Am I overreacting? Husband incapable of putting our kids to bed, and it's driving me mad. We have 3 kids, 10, 7, and 5. We take turns putting the younger 2 to bed. For the last 5 months, almost without fail, the kids become hysterical when it's bedtime. To be fair, the 5-year-old has never been a fan. They cry, they want me, they shout. He loses his temper, then lets them wander off to find me, or he messages me, asking to help, or take over. Tonight, I was downstairs cleaning the mess up when 5-year-old came down crying, wanting me, upset with husband for something minor. I tried to get him back upstairs, but he wouldn't go. So, I asked 10-year-old to go tell husband to come and get him. She returned 5 seconds later, saying, he said no. By this time, the 7-year-old is also downstairs, also sobbing, asking for my bedtime. I'm outside, bringing everything inside. Husband comes down with a face like thunder and asks me to help him. I said no, and carried on tidying. Please keep in mind this happens almost every other bedtime, and if my kids are truly distraught, I always take over. He shouted at me that the only thing he did wrong was that he wasn't me. But tonight, I was so pissed off, I point blank refused to help him or even really acknowledge him. I'm starting to feel like he must be doing something wrong or not doing enough to build his relationship with them, for them to be so anti his bedtime every night. He loves his kids. He plays in the day, rough and tumble, but doesn't have much time or patience for anything else. So, am I overreacting to this? I'm so touched out. It's been a long summer of looking after the kids, arranging all play dates and activities. All I'm asking for is that he just cracks on and does bedtime alone. Then I can tidy or maybe even just sit down for an hour without a child on me. Please be gentle in your responses. I'm finding this really hard. Update. Husband got diagnosed 2 years ago with ADHD and has been on meds for a year. He has used weaponized incompetence his whole life. He's very impulsive and gets angry quickly. He has worked on it, and it is way better than it used to be. But the kids not listening, yes, I know they are kids, really triggers him. And their rejection is like a red rag to a bull. My children are not spoiled. They're not manipulative. They are children who are all emotionally intelligent, like me. And the inconsistency in his behavior affects all of us, but particularly the kids at bedtime. I appreciate the suggestions given. This one certainly gives me the impression that the husband here is using ADHD as an excuse and not necessarily as an explanation. This is something that I previously talked about before, where sometimes when someone brings up their ADHD, they're not trying to use it to excuse their behavior, just as an explanation of why they may make mistakes or why they might mess up. This, though, doesn't feel like it falls into the explanation category and instead falls firmly and squarely into the excuse category. Before we read some comments and cap this off, I think that, at minimum, OP should definitely sit through with her husband and go through the bedtime routine and see what steps he's missing. Maybe there genuinely is something that he's actually forgotten, and it's causing all this turmoil. That's me, though, giving benefit of the doubt to someone during a routine that I have no input or reference on. I just feel it would be good to at least knock out any possibility of there being some crucial step that he might be missing, and to firmly, squarely confirm the fact that he is just being lazy about the bedtime routine and blaming on the fact that the kids just don't like him, and therefore bedtime's impossible when he's trying to do it. I do feel that OP's feelings are valid, though. Don't get me wrong on that front. Comment from Sweet Amalia. You're not overreacting. It sounds like weaponized incompetence to me. So, he's a great dad. When it's his choice, when he doesn't find it boring. Everyone has parts of parenting they don't like. I always hated bath time. But you just do them anyway. And do them like you don't hate them. He's not trying. He's putting them to bed, or trying to, his way, instead of adjusting to what works for them. It is not reasonable for him to be unable to put them to bed half the time that he tries. I'm curious if he spends much time with the kids when you're not around. When/if you get time for yourself, is he texting/calling you the whole time because he needs help? This reminds me of my ex-husband, and it won't ever change. So unless you're okay with it, I would suggest that he read a parenting book. I would say that you should have a conversation and discuss how it is our job, as adults, not to freak out at our kids, even if we're upset/wound up. But that would be a whole nother pile of emotional labor for you. OP responds, "It used to be 10 times worse. My friends had a running joke of A, how soon after my arrival the messages and calls would start, and B, how many there'd be. We had huge rows about it. I eventually left, which made him realize I was serious. I came back. Some things improved, some haven't. It's exhausting, to be honest." Dust17437 comments, "What is he doing differently from you? Obviously, the kids like your routine better. Is he changing that up? What are they getting so upset about?" OP responds, "He has ADHD. He's inconsistent and impulsive. The 7-year-old has quite significant anxiety, which he rarely shares with his dad, but will often share with me. He obviously feels safer to open up. I'm sure my husband knows the routine, but he skips bits and does whatever makes life easier. I do think the lack of consistency leads to them feeling anxious. His temper/mood swings don't help." With that final comment there, I can't help but to wonder what approach would be the best for everyone involved here. I'm left with the impression that because the husband has consistently chosen to not follow the bedtime routine over the years, that this has led to the kids having less trust in him, and has led them to be unwilling to confide in him problems of their anxieties and other issues like that, and has only caused this issue to escalate. And the husband is unwilling to try and bridge that gap, and is now in the position where, at the first sign of resistance, he just throws his hands in the air and gives up and gets the wife involved. That's kind of what I'm left to interpret here from all the comments that I'm seeing, and just from what's being said. But if you feel like you're seeing something that I might be missing, please don't hesitate to comment your opinions below. I really do appreciate those. Worthless Life 55. Am I overreacting for getting upset that my friend charged me for a birthday dinner I thought she was treating me to? I, 26 female, went out with my close friend, 27 female, for my birthday. She made a big deal about wanting to treat me and picked a nice restaurant. The whole night she was like, "Don't worry, I got you." When the bill came, she paid with her card, and I thought that was that. But the next day, she sent me a Venmo request for half the bill, $85, and said, "Just splitting it like always, smiley face." I was confused and reminded her she said it was her treat. She replied, "Well, yeah, but I didn't mean I'd pay the whole thing. Just cover it, and then we'd split." I feel kind of hurt and embarrassed. I ended up paying, but now I don't even want to do birthdays with her anymore. She says I'm being dramatic and overreacting. Am I? Yeah, this sucks. Either they knew exactly what they were doing, or they realized, after they paid the bill that they just could not actually afford this, and decided to use this as some kind of cover story. Either way, what they did was shitty. It was your birthday. They literally told you that it would be their treat, and that you wouldn't need to worry. Then they turn around, slap you with half the bill, and then hit you with, "Well, I didn't mean I'd pay the whole thing, just cover it, and then we'd split it." That is not at all what any of their words prior translated to, and I'm guessing they're probably fully aware of that. You aren't being dramatic or overreacting for being confused as to why you have to pay for half the birthday dinner your friend said that they would cover and treat you for. They literally picked a nice restaurant to take you to. My tinfoil hat theory really is pointing to the fact that they wanted to treat you to a birthday dinner, got the bill, paid for it, and realized that it just literally was not in their finances to cover. Which, if that was the case, they really should have been honest about it, and not just pulled whatever the hell this was. Like, in that situation, while it still sucks, I would have preferred the honesty of what's actually going on than being led on like this and being told some kind of bullshit reasoning. While I would have been disappointed, I don't think I would have nearly lost as much respect for a friend as this scenario given by OP would have caused. Klakowski Ratch. Am I overreacting for being mad my friend charged me for dinner at her place? I was in the area the other night and decided to drop by my friend's place unannounced just to say hi. We've been close for a long time, so it didn't feel like a big deal. She had just finished making dinner and the whole place smelled amazing. So I naturally said, "That smells good." She offered me a plate, and I figured, why not? I wasn't planning on eating there, but since she offered, I said yes. Honestly, if she hadn't, I would have been totally fine just hanging out while she ate. We sat down, had dinner, and the night felt super normal. We talked, caught up, nothing out of the ordinary. Then, the next day, I get a Venmo request from her for $12. At first I laughed because I thought it was a joke, but it turns out she was dead serious. She told me groceries are too expensive now, which I get, but it still felt really weird to basically get billed for a casual dinner at a friend's house. It caught me totally off guard, and now I'm wondering if I'm making a big deal out of nothing, or if it really is out of line to charge a friend like that. So when I read this, I thought the biggest points of contention would be showing up unannounced and the fact that they were still offered a plate. Those two being the main things that could seal the deal in either direction. And I was definitely expecting some disagreement, but I was not expecting it to be so unanimous. Upon scrolling down to take a look at this post further, it's got 1,000 upvotes and nearly 1,000 comments. Yeah. Let's take a look at some of those comments. Gain outrageous. The person who shows up at dinner time unexpectedly, tells them how good it smells, and then plans to sit awkwardly, watch them eat, isn't exactly blame-free here. Asking for money is not something I would do, but for all you know, friend meal plans in such a way that the plate you ate tonight means they miss a meal later in the week. And it's a lot easier to send a request and be rude when the person is gone than be rude to them when they're sitting, watching you eat, telling you how good it looks. User used Mark 7911 comments, "You're overreacting. On the surface, it does seem a little crazy to me that she would bill you. However, I think you're being coy about your presence there during a mealtime, saying that you would have been totally fine just hanging out while she ate. That seems very awkward. Ultimately, you showed up unannounced during a mealtime with no food of your own and then made comments about how good her food smelled. Of course she felt obligated to offer you a portion. If you're close friends, I feel like you would be aware of her financial situation and social preferences. I think it's worth talking about this with her. I have friends who love the spontaneity of people dropping in and others for whom that is a nightmare. I have friends who love to host and tell us to just bring ourselves, and others who I know expect a bottle of wine and perhaps a dish. Just in case, I always ask, what can I bring? Also, perhaps she's very, very low on cash. Like, that meal was supposed to last her 2 to 3 days, and you ate half of it. Maybe you just need to be more aware and sensitive towards her situation." Commenter Zamin Beasma comments, "You're overreacting. You showed up unannounced at a close friend's place. If she is a close friend, then why didn't you message/call her, considering the fact that nowadays everyone is almost always online, and there are various ways to communicate. She was making dinner, and you had to say that it smells amazing, making her feel that she has to offer you a plate. You could have said no. You could have not mentioned that it smells nice, or better yet, you could have taken that as a cue to leave at the time so she could have her dinner by herself. You said you weren't planning on eating there, but then you say if she hadn't offered you dinner, then you would have watched her eat alone? Why? When someone starts eating in front of you without offering you any food, it's a cue for you to leave and let them enjoy their meal. But watching them while they're eating is another way to make them feel that they have to offer you some. Don't show up to your friends' houses unannounced during meal times, especially if you don't take any food with you for them." So I knew that this one was going to be split, and we would actually have one that would be a "you're overreacting" based upon what OP said in their post. I just was not expecting to be so unanimous on the decisions here, that they are in fact overreacting. I was expecting it to be like a 50-50 split of some people be like, yeah, no, you're totally good to go. And some people be like, no, you're totally in the wrong here. But no, it's pretty unanimous. And just to clarify, I think I am in the boat of you're overreacting here. Because OP did show up unannounced and hit them with the, smells good, what are you cooking? And right now, groceries and ingredients are not cheap. So I get it. OP put their friend into an incredibly awkward situation. And well, yeah, of course, there are better ways of handling this. OP's friend went with the most non-confrontational way possible. But with that said, what's your opinion? GB Williams 369. Am I overreacting? My wife and son had dinner out multiple times without telling me while I cooked at home. And she thinks it's funny. Background. My wife, 56 female, and I, 63 male, have 3 kids in high school and college still living at home. A couple of years ago, I developed type 2 diabetes, so in an effort to eat better and save money, I started doing all of the grocery shopping and cooking for the family. And in return, my wife does the dishes. I do a lot of stuff from scratch. It's a lot of work. Everyone says I'm a good cook, and they tell me they like my food. My kids are picky about food in different ways, so I struggle to come up with dishes everyone likes. Last week, my wife says she and my son want to take us out to dinner for a special treat. The place is a secret. Sounds like fun. Last night is the big night. She drives us to a local food truck that does lobster rolls. We've been there before. Great place. But for the last month, to help my worsening diabetes, I've tried to cut starches out of my diet. Just for myself, not for anyone else. My wife knows this. The food truck is 90% sandwiches on big bread rolls. Okay, so I have the soup, everyone else gets a lobster roll, and she orders tater tots for the table on top of it all. When we sit down, she finally lets us in on the reason we're here. When my son was learning to drive several months back, she would take him out driving after work, before dinner. Turns out, they would learn where the food truck was that night, drive there, eat a lobster roll, which cost like $20 each, and then come home and pick at the dinner that I had cooked. They did this multiple times. My wife thought that I would be amused. I was not. I told her she should have told me they were eating out so I didn't have to cook for them. She says I was cooking for everyone else, so what's the difference? I reminded her that I struggle with making meals everyone likes, and I could have made different things, or even taken the other kids out myself on those nights. She didn't say anything after that, and now she's avoiding me because she knows I'm upset. She hasn't apologized. The thing is, she never offers to cook. She doesn't help with meal planning. She never helps with the groceries. She will often come home late from work without telling me she'll be late, and in general, she doesn't seem to care at all about how hard I work to feed everyone, or about how I need to control my diet. I've let her know how I feel many times, and it hasn't made a bit of difference. Honestly, this lobster roll thing felt like the last straw. I'm ready to give up on cooking for the family and start cooking just for myself. Am I overreacting? The wife literally knows what she's doing. She knows the effort her husband puts into each meal, and she doesn't care. Cooking from scratch to meet an entire family's worth of dietary preferences is complicated and difficult as fuck. And he's been doing that for a while, and then finds out that his wife has been going to get lobster rolls and thinks it's funny. All the effort of cooking, planning, finding dishes that everyone will enjoy, for nothing, because the wife doesn't care and finds it amusing. And even seems to refuse to sympathize or understand what the husband's even going through. Maybe the exhaustion's just getting to me, but after honestly going through that and seeing kind of what OP's dealing with here, I'd say not overreacting. And honestly, yeah, give it a swing. Only cook for yourself. See what happens. Maybe make the offer to the kids and see which ones want to continue having meals cooked for them and which ones actually appreciate the effort you put in. Throw the line out there, see who bites, and go from there. My exhaustion might be getting the best of me, and I might be getting a little bit short on the responses here, but That's just kind of where my mind's going on this one. I did see some comments making a mention of OP forcing his dietary restrictions on his family, but based upon what he described for how he cooks and how he prepares his meals and him tailoring each meal to fit the entire family's preferences, I don't necessarily get that impression. Especially with him making things from scratch, which, once you start making from scratch, the world kind of opens up around you for what you can cook in the kitchen. But even beyond that, I'm still left with the fact of the wife is just being unnecessarily cruel to the husband and just doesn't seem to give a damn. And that sucks.
Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.